Around 3 years ago, I did deliveries for my dad's pizza business to make extra money for a car I wanted. I had just turned 17 and would do several deliveries for my dad whenever I could. I hated the idea of running the register or doing dishes, so my dad let me do deliveries instead. Realistically speaking, I'd work maybe 15 hours a week to help with my dad, and being a small business, we'd maybe get about 4 or 5 deliveries a day. If we didn't get deliveries that day, I'd always help my dad with cooking whenever he needed it. One night before closing, I had been sweeping the floor when my dad asks me if I could do one last delivery. I was tired, but knowing how hard my dad worked and how badly I wanted that car, I agreed. The customer who had ordered was located on the opposite side of town, which meant it would be a longer drive. I put the order into the back of the car, a single large pie, and got on the road. My GPS led me to the more rural side of town, the type of place where you would commonly see run-down homes and stuff like that. I had already been skeptical of this part of town, but realized it was another tip at the end of the day. I arrived to the house and I immediately noticed the red flags. Not a single light was on inside, and there were no cars in the driveway. A chill ran down my spine as I saw this, as I had never seen anything more sketchy. However, I always knew that you had to do things in life you didn't want to do, so I bit my lip and walked up to the house. The doorbell was completely damaged, so I knocked. Silence filled the air until I very faintly heard footsteps approaching the door before it opened. Standing at the door was an older-looking man, maybe in his 50s, giving me a friendly smile. This made me a bit more relieved now that I felt greeted, but was still hesitant. He politely asked if I was the pizza guy, to which I replied with a yes and handed him his food. For whatever reason, I asked him why all of the lights were off in his house. There was a short pause before he finally said it was because the power went out in his neighborhood. However, that's when I noticed that the rest of the homes had at least one light on, so I knew this was a lie. Not wanting to pry and too tired to care, I tell him to have a good night and went on my way. He then stops me and tells me he wanted to give me something special for being such a good person. This was weird, but I walked over to him and he then tells me to follow him inside. It was at this point where something told me to not do it and to get back in the car. I simply just stood by the door while he insisted I come inside. Now this is the part where things would have taken a terrible turn. As I was standing by the door frame, I could very faintly see by the stairs someone wearing what appeared to be a white mask. The man saw the look on my face and must have caught on to my suspicions. At that point, I run back to the car and drive the hell out of there, not looking back. I take a look in my rearview mirror and thankfully nobody was following me as I left. All the while, I'm hyperventilating while on the phone with my dad, telling him everything. He had told me that he'd be on the phone with the police and to come straight home. Long story short, I was questioned by the police when they asked me to name the address. As it turns out, that house had been vacant for years as nobody ever lived there. Needless to say, police still went to that house, but like in most situations like this, whoever was there was gone. I still work for my dad's business, but we made a new rule where we wouldn't accept deliveries past a certain time. It's been a few years now, and nothing has happened since. This incident still comes back to me once in a while, and makes me think about what would have happened had I not seen the man in the mask. I worked as a delivery driver at my local Pizza Hut when I was a sophomore in college. It wasn't the best paying job, but it was enough to where I could pay bills and other things I wanted. Being a full-time student, I had a flexible work schedule, meaning I'd only work a few times per week. My typical hours were the weekends, which were the busiest days, seeing as there were more customers. This incident happened on a Friday night while I was out doing deliveries. For context, I live in a small town of Tennessee, so there would be a lot of land around the area and nobody out on the road. The delivery I had gotten was located on the other side of town, where the more wealthier people resided. This was a plus, as the wealthier people tend to tip more and were generally a lot nicer than most people. I was on a long road with forests on both sides trying to get to the destination when, out of nowhere, I see a car tailing behind me. This wasn't common, as these roads are mostly quiet during this time of night. For some reason, I had this feeling of dread inside and figured this person was up to no good. All the while, the car's horn is blaring nonstop to the point where I was trying to figure out what they wanted. All of a sudden, I hear the voice of a man from the car say something, but because of the wind, I couldn't hear him. That's when I slowed down where he yelled again, and that was when I could hear something along the lines of, "Your car's on fire." I look in my rearview mirror, and the trunk is full on smoking with small flames coming from my wheels. How I didn't see this, I have no idea, but I start screaming and pull over while running out of the car. Thankfully, the driver of the other car got out and made sure I was okay. Suddenly, a loud boom can be heard from the car, and half of the car is now in flames. Now this is the part where I could only describe to be the work of God. Turns out, this driver wasn't even supposed to be on this road. He had been coming home from work when, for whatever reason, he got this urge to turn onto the street even though it was the wrong way. The feeling was so strong that he thought he was crazy, but decided to finally do it, and that's when he saw me. When he said that, I stood there in utter shock. It took a while, but fire rescue came to put it out while I informed my boss. Unfortunately, the fire department couldn't figure out as to what caused the fire. I had taken a week off from work after that, and all delivery vehicles were inspected. Till this day, I thank that driver for getting me to notice, as I thought he didn't have good intentions. If there hadn't been someone on that road that night, God only knows what would have happened to me. Thank God for that driver, and thank God I finally noticed. When I was 17, I worked at a pizza chain as a part-time job in Iowa City, Iowa. Being a teen with not much in my life, I had mostly worked the night shifts alongside my other coworker. It would stay busy well into the day and would start to die down come evenings. This was around the time where people were simply too tired to come and get food and preferred to just order it. I won't disclose any of my colleagues' information, so I'll just call my coworker Jared. Jared was a bit older than me, who was mainly placed in charge of making the pizzas while I was the one delivering them. On this night, it had just been me and him. It was already past 10 and we were getting ready to close when the phone rang. I answered it, and right away I hear someone on the other end, an older lady requesting a large pepperoni. I was annoyed as we were about to close and I really did not feel like driving. She had given me the address, which thankfully wasn't too far, and because it was a single pie, I'd be in and out. Thankfully, Jared had made a pepperoni pizza and couldn't deliver it due to a cancellation, so he just told me to take that one instead. I hop into my car and drive a few miles down near the interstate. Now, this interstate wasn't very popular, and it was also somewhat unsettling. This was mainly due to the fact that it had been surrounded by forest on the opposite sides of it. Driving through these roads at night with nobody around is enough to creep anyone out. After all, I did live in the rural part of my city, which only added to the creepiness. Anyway, I'm driving down the road when I see something up ahead on the side of the grass. As I drive closer, I realize it's a man waving his arms up in the air, attempting to flag me down. Now, I would have just drove by him, but earlier that week, I had heard the phrase, "Character is what you do when no one is looking." And for whatever reason, that was the night I decided that I was a man of character. Huge mistake. I pull over slowly and roll down my window just a tad before asking him if he needed help. Right away, he starts rambling on about how he was taking his dog for a walk when it ran off into the woods. He then offers me $300 if I could help him find his dog, as it was near and dear to him. Almost immediately, alarms start going off in my head as he's telling me his story. 1. Who walks their dog in the middle of an interstate? 2. If he did have a dog, why is he walking it at this time of night? And 3. The forest area is barricaded by wired fences, so there's no way the dog would have just jumped over it. I might have been naive, but I wasn't born yesterday. I apologized, telling him I'd be unable to, as I had to deliver this pizza and that it couldn't be late. However, he disregarded what I had said and basically tried pressuring me into helping him. I tell him no once again. Just as he was about to say something, I hear, clear as day, a blood-curdling scream from the woods calling for help. From my point of view, it sounded like a woman's cry for help. It was then when I had looked at this person who now had this menacing glare. He looks around for a brief second, leans in toward my car, and tells me to leave in a more upset tone. Not giving it a second thought, I speed down the road, not looking back. The rest of my delivery went smoothly, but I still couldn't shake the feeling off of what had happened. I reported my encounter to the police, and I was later told that they had searched the area, but had found no sign of anyone. The next day, I had gone back to my job and quit right then and there. No more late-night deliveries for me. Till this day, I'm still not sure what I encountered that night. I'm not sure if it was someone that really did lose their dog, or something much worse. Update to March 14th of 2023. As it turns out, this woman had been missing for the past 9 years when she was abducted from her home in Davenport. Police had found the man I encountered about 10 miles away, along with the woman. He of course was arrested, and the woman had bruises all over her. Apparently, this man was wanted for assault and battery as he was a convicted felon. Now that I've found this out, I was even more concerned what would have happened had I gone inside. I don't know if I was going to become a victim or something much worse. The woman who had been kidnapped is doing well and is now back in school for her studies.